Good evening and welcome to this August 25th meeting of the Board of Education for Ventura Unified School District. My name is Sabrina Rodriguez and I'm the board president, and I'm joined here by our 5 elected board members and our superintendent, Dr. Roger Rice, and a great suite of staff members who will hopefully guide us through this meeting on our local public schools and all that is going on with the new back to school year that we have just embarked upon. So we will jump right in and call the meeting to order. And if you would please, I'm just going to let in a few more people from the waiting room. If you would please join me, I'm going to share my flag. And if you would join me in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great, thank you very much. Ms. Dawn, would you please take roll?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Trustee Dannenberg? Trustee Dannenberg?
Here. Sorry.
Thank you. That's okay. Trustee Almaraz?
Here.
Trustee Lomax?
Here.
Trustee Moran?
Here.
Trustee Rodriguez?
Here.
And Superintendent Dr. Roger Rice?
Here.
Great. Prior to this meeting, the board met in closed session and there was no action taken today in our closed session meeting. Which brings us to good news. Dr. Rice.
Thank you, Board President Rodriguez. It's great to be here. Welcome, everybody. Wonderful to see everybody here. I also want to thank our representatives of our 2 bargaining units, Carol Peak and Dan Nelson. I know Dan's on there somewhere, or will be shortly. Great to see you here. I have the pleasure of making an introduction of our newest assistant principal. We are extremely excited to add him to the team, and he's on the call with us this evening. And he is Mr. Mike Gennaro. He's the new assistant principal at Anacapa Middle School. Mr. Gennaro has been with the Ventura Unified School District for almost 33 years now, a 6th grade teacher at DATA. He has worked his entire Ventura Unified School District career at that same school. Mr. Gennaro has taught language arts, social studies, AVID, intervention, and PE. He has also served as the ASB activities director, an AVID program site mentor, and has coached both boys and girls basketball. In 2018, Mr. Gennaro's work helped him earn the honor of being selected as the Ventura Chamber of Commerce Poinsettia Award Educator of the Year. Mr. Gennaro earned his Bachelor of Arts degree in Liberal Studies from Point Loma Nazarene University in San Diego and his master's degree from California Lutheran University. And I want to add to that formal presentation by just sharing how much Mr. Gennaro impressed the interview panel. And I know that Principal Vega Manriquez talked about having worked with you, Mike, for a number of years and having a great deal of trust in your ability and your compassion and passion for working with kids. So Mike, welcome. Let's give him a big round of applause. All right, Mike, now you get to give a speech.
Oh, now I get to talk? All right.
Yes.
Well, I'm super excited. We started fast. But it has been great to be at Anacapa, but I wouldn't be ready for Anacapa if I hadn't had all my experiences at De Anza. And the people there were amazing and inspiring, and they helped form who I am today as an educator and as a leader. So I am grateful forever to De Anza and all those wonderful staff members I worked with and all those mentors I had there. But I'm really excited to be at Anacapa. It's a warm and wonderful staff. We got to see kids at distribution the last few days, and that was a lot of fun rather than seeing Zoom. And so I am just super happy to be in this new position.
Great. Board members, would you like to share a welcome?
Just, Mike, welcome to the team, and we really appreciate you stepping up and willing to take on this role. We know you're going to do a great job. You've had a lot of good role models in your life, and so we expect nothing but great things from you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Mike. Welcome to the team. Great for you and this opportunity to lead our district in the administration role. I saw the great things from you at Data when my daughter was there for 3 years, and I was a PTA member back then. And also in your many battles with my brother-in-law, Larry Anter from Balboa, in your basketball census. So I've seen the passion you have, not only for the kids in the classroom and the whole school in general, and then the passion you have when you're a coach. So you can see the uniqueness in that. So welcome, and can't wait to see the great job you're going to do.
Thanks.
And we go back way, 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 way back when I was on the PTSA at Diaz years ago, and your dad helped me get elected to the school board.
Yeah.
So welcome. You're not new to the district, but this will be a new role for you, and we're very, very excited, and it's about time.
Thank you.
It's always great to see some of our own stepping up into leadership roles, and welcome. And, I can't wait to see what you do at Anacapa, and I'm sure that the campus will be better to have you there. So welcome aboard.
Yeah, so I just will add my thanks as well for stepping into this new role, Mike. It's great to have your style of leadership at a school like Anacapa. Always heard such wonderful things about the way you connect with students and the way you support and work with your peers in a collaborative fashion. And I think that's something that will work well at any site, but I think they're going to be really excited to have you at Anacapa. And look forward to seeing what you guys will do there. And they're a lucky staff and a great staff. So It'll be a really exciting year. I'm glad you are already hitting the ground running.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to have you here. You're welcome to stay on the meeting as long as you like, but there are some other political happenings going on right now too. So if you feel like you need to jump off, that's okay too. Dr. Rice, any other good news you'd like to share?
No, I'm ready to move on to Superintendent's report if you're okay with that.
Sweet. Yes.
All right. So there has been so much going on, and board and staff, forgive me, this one might take just a minute or two longer than I normally would, but there's just so many things to say and so many people to thank. I want to start off by just giving kudos to everyone who's worked so hard to get the school year started off on such a great foot. And I've been going out daily and visiting campuses, and one of the great things that I've been able to enjoy is to relax and stay there for a while. I've tried to stay at each site for between 45 minutes to an hour when I've been there, and it's given me a chance to talk to the office staff and to the principals and to the teachers, to see them working in action, to passing out their textbooks and divvying out Chromebooks and iPads, and watching the kindergarten teachers welcoming their kindergarten students with their parents, getting a chance to connect with the parents, thanking them for their patience, acknowledging that this isn't the year that we all hoped for, but we appreciate their flexibility and their patience very much. And it's been wonderful to see the teamwork and the camaraderie that everybody has been displaying. So I just wanted to take a minute to share that. And I also want to acknowledge a couple individuals that have gone above and beyond. And the first one is someone who goes above and beyond all the time. And it kind of gets cliche thanking him, but Alex Wolf made over 1,000 face shields for the community and for the districts. And big round of applause. Alex, thank you for all the work that you do. Your leadership and your forward thinking about the needs of the district, the needs of the kids, the needs of the community is second to none. So really appreciate you having you on the team, Alex. Also, I want to give a big shout out to Carmelita Young Everard and Samantha Sue, who led a group called Protect Our VUSD Teachers, One Mask for Every Teacher. That's the project they made. Velma Lomax, I know you helped with that project as well. They made a presentation of massive bags of masks with all school buses and different patterns, and they're just amazing. And Carmelita, Samantha, you guys are amazing. We appreciate your generosity of spirit and the time that it took to make those. And I know our teachers and support staff will appreciate getting those masks. So I wanted to say that. And then also wanted to move on and thank our athletic directors and our coaches who have been working so hard on trying to put together a plan that would be compliant with the new directives that we've gotten from the Ventura County Office of Public Health and also the California Department of Public Health that outlines our ability to return to strength training and conditioning and small group activities for PE. They've done just a yeoman's job of putting together a very robust set of practices and protocols. I want to thank Eric Reynolds for his work helping with that, Jeff Davis, Anthony Ramos. We've all been meeting. Probably we've met 3 times now to make sure that the plans that are in place are compliant with the new guidelines, and we feel like they are. We're very confident that they are. And as the district works to, at some point, come back to in-person instruction, it makes sense that we take small baby steps and forays into controllable environments that are approved. This is one of the very few milieus that the Public Health Office has approved. And so we're looking at trying to get the kids back together with their coaches maybe the week of September 8th. So we'll see how that goes. But there are strict rules in place and monitoring and training for all of our coaches that will have to happen before that occurs. But I wanted to thank them for all their efforts. Also want to give a special shout out to all the classified support staff, especially those in transportation, our paras, our noon supervisors, our food and nutrition services people. What the public and some of the community may not know is that these people have had their world turned upside down with school operating without students in person. Many of those same people, obviously they're not driving buses or they're not working with kids directly. And so I have a special thank you to Carol later for helping us work this out. But their efforts in taking on assignments that they've never done before with such a positive can-do attitude and going to work, helping get our schools ready, helping stuff textbook bags and make the campus more attractive and helping the principals where they need help has been nothing short of heroic. And I really, really appreciate their attitude and their hard work. So I wanted to mention that. Also, in a new development this year that I'm extremely excited about, yeah, we can clap for them, yes. I had a chance to meet with our director of Ed Options and principal of El Camino, Hector Guerrero, and the principal of Pacific High School, Deidre Manaras, to talk about our relocation of the middle school opportunity program to the campus at Pacific. We're really excited about that. Hector has a really great memo that if you haven't seen it yet, it'll be going out shortly, that talks about having increased capacity to support the program at Pacific, having improved facilities and the room for the program to branch out into career technical ed and internships and all the hands-on project-based learning things that we would like for those kids to work on. I had a chance to tour the facility last week with Principal Manadas, and I was able to also meet the new teacher, Morgan Quico. I'm extremely impressed with Morgan. She has a passion for those kids. She wants to make a difference in their lives, and my only direction to them was think big. Don't do it half-baked. If you need technology, then we need technology. If we need curriculum, we need curriculum. If we need to reconfigure a room, then we're going to reconfigure a room. The kids that need our help the most, that they deserve the most. And so that program is on the way up. I'm really excited about it. And I thank Hector and Deidre and Morgan for all of their work in helping us realize that vision. One of the exciting things there is that, we have our agriculture pathway and our student-run farm that's going to be implemented at Pacific High School this year. And we're really excited about getting the middle school opportunity kids involved in that as well. We also had a chance to meet with Principal Susan Martinez at Blanche Reynolds to talk about The development of the prior approved K-8 program at Blanche Reynolds. There was some question about whether there was still buy-in and support and momentum to move forward given all that we've gone through. Principal Martinez roundly and enthusiastically expressed the support of not just herself, but her entire staff. It was an excellent meeting. And I had a chance to tour the facility with her today. I'm going to be meeting with Donna Rose shortly and Bill Elsenbaumer to go out there and look at the facility and start going to town on that building and making sure that the classrooms are ready for our middle schoolers. We're on a little bit of a short timeline because we want to get the rebranding and the theme and the curriculum highlights in place before the school choice program this winter. So that's work that will be done by Dr. Cortez and Ms. Wallowitz and Dr. Bayless and Principal Martinez and her staff. And we look forward to seeing that. I know there was some discussion at the last meeting about the need to revisit the naming of facilities. That one I think I shared at that meeting, and I'm sharing again today. That could be taken care of with respect to the new K-8 branding for that school. So I'm really excited about the efforts there. I wanted to also share that on Wednesday, I had a chance to sit in on a press conference that was provided by the Ventura County Office of Public Health and Dr. Levin. And at that meeting, probably you're all aware that he made a rather unexpected announcement that he would be entertaining waivers in the TK6 grade span, which was rather unexpected. We then had an opportunity to meet with all superintendents in the county, with Ventura County Superintendent of Schools Mantooth, to discuss process, requirements, all of the things necessary to even talk about the idea of a waiver. And we're still in the process of evaluating the materials and the requirements, especially as it relates to contact tracing and testing, just to better understand everything that we would need to do to qualify for the waiver. It's a rather extensive process, but we're still, like I said, we're still in the process of evaluating that. We also just received guidance today on some of the definitions of what a cohort of students is and what a small cohort of students is. So I think someone said earlier today that there was some feeling that maybe part of what makes our job so difficult right now is the constant changing of guidelines and requirements, and that is an example of it. So we got a press conference on Wednesday. We got guidelines sent to us on Friday, and then today we got another set of definitions. And before we would ever, I think, entertain that as an item, and I wait to hear from the board later about that, but staff needs some time to discern how all of that fits together. But I wanted you to know that we are continuing to monitor that, and I had a chance to see that firsthand and confer with the rest of the superintendents in the county. Also, I want to thank Dan Nelson and Carol Peak for their work in coordinating our memorandums of understanding. And we talked about the fact that we have a memorandum of understanding that not only outlines safety protocols, but also outlines the reassignment of some of our most important support people on the agenda tonight. I'm looking forward to that. And I want to thank Carol and her team publicly for working so collaboratively with us. And then I also want to extend my gratitude to Dan Nelson for his work on helping us work through some of those changing guidelines and requirements that I spoke to just a second ago. One being kind of how we go about assessing responsibility for devices that we're checking out. We're giving out literally hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars worth of equipment, and we want to make sure we get that right. So I think we came to some agreement about that issue. And then also VCOE and the state dropped a bomb on us late last week about attendance and guidance, tracking of engagement, which really made everybody extremely pleased. And I'm saying that with all due sarcasm because sometimes I hate to say it, but I try to stay positive, but sometimes the requirements that get sent to us are likely written by people that potentially might not have spent very much time running a classroom. Or so I just want to tell Dan and all the teachers who are listening today, none of us were happy about that. I don't know how realistic that is at all. I know it's been extremely upsetting to everybody. And yet I want to thank Dan and his team and Danielle and Jeff and our team for sitting down and trying to work through that. And that means a lot to us. I think having that kind of collaborative relationships helps us work through the most difficult issues that we face. And speaking of difficult issues, I'm going to end on this. We know that there was an allusion just a minute ago to the political theater that's happening right now. We just finished our Democratic National Convention last week. We're in the middle of our Republican National Convention this week. I don't want to have to make a big deal out of this, but I do want to acknowledge that in the past, we've had lots of upset, both in the community, at our schools, with our teachers, when there were conflicts that arose due to heated and very passionate feelings about the political landscape that we're in. And this is a high stakes election coming up. People feel very strongly about it. And yet our teachers and our support staff and our bargaining unit have worked extremely hard to make the best of this situation this year and to start off on a positive track. And so I just want to implore everyone to be familiar with Board Policy 4119.25, which, to make a long story short, just says don't be advocating for political candidates or ballot measures. I think that's a quick way to ruin the positive feelings and the camaraderie that we're enjoying right now with our community and with our kids. I'm just imploring you as your superintendent, let's stay out of that. Let's stay focused on our kids. Let's stay positive as much as we can and try to respect the fact that each of us has, different feelings about the election coming up. And we have an update, for example, tonight on the Parcel Tax. But even on that one, which has the potential to benefit the district immensely, we are not going to be advocating. We're not going to be wearing, vote yes on H or vote no on H, or we're not going to go there. I just want to, again, encourage us all to stay neutral when we're on campus as much as we can, so that we can avoid that conflict. We got about 8 more weeks to go, and then the public's will be done. So with that, I'm going to end my report by just thanking everybody for all of their hard work and all of their collaborative spirit. It's been a really good start with all the difficulty that we've had. I have to tell you, I saw more smiles over the past week and a half than I've seen in 5 months. And mostly it's because we got a chance to see kids. We got a chance to see parents. We got a chance to see each other. And that means a lot to everybody. It means a lot to me. And people have been asking me how I'm doing when I'm out there. And my first gut reaction, I kind of push down, and then I say, I'm having a great week because I'm here with you guys and I get a chance to be with you. And I mean it. It makes a world of difference to get out of the office and go to the school sites and see kids and teachers and counselors and office staff. And I'm sure you guys feel the same way. So thank you for everything you've done to get us started off on a good year.
Thank you, Roger. That was really lovely. Board, has anyone received correspondence that they would like to share? No. So with that, I will move to our public comments. Prior to the start of the meeting, we had received a number of emails, all of which will be included in the public record from tonight's meetings. As you heard last meeting, if you were watching us, we no longer are reading any of the emails online during our meetings because that was not consistent with our policy, but we do summarize them, and then the full emails are included for the record, which is available in the minutes. So we received 2 emails, one from a student advocating for us to remain consistent with our voter registration policy for our high school seniors. We, during last school year, adopted a policy that has 2 windows for pre-registration and registration for our seniors. And they reminded us of that policy and asked us to remain consistent. We received 3 emails from parents and students asking for us to seek the waiver to return to school as soon as possible. And that was for a variety of reasons, but they included students' mental health and parents' ability to get back to work. We received 2 emails requesting increased access to childcare on our campuses for students. One of those emails was from a staff member and specifically asked about care for staff member children while their parents are at work in service to our community's children. We received 1 email regarding sport official concerns. Trying to summarize it because honestly, it was a little confusing for me that I'm not in the sporting referee world, but there were some issues that they wanted to have addressed regarding officials for our high school sporting events and their qualifications. 1 email in support of keeping our SROs on our campuses, and 1 email asking about ensuring that we can continue to make our Zoom links available for students who are attending school after hours with their parents once their parents are done with work. Those, as I said, will all be shared with the entire board and will be part of the public record. With that, I will move to, we have a notice of public hearing. So item 15A, at our next regularly scheduled board meeting on September 8th at 7:30, the board will hold a hearing regarding the presentation of Ventura Unified School District's 2020-2021 Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan. If you have an interest in the plan, you are encouraged to attend our next meeting and submit any questions or comments prior to. Dr. Rickard, did you have any additional information you'd like to share?
You did a beautiful job with that, Mrs. Rodriguez. Thank you for that. So just a little bit, this is in lieu of an LCAP this year. We are doing a learning continuity and attendance plan in lieu of an LCAP, and this is authorized by State Bill 98 that requires that prior to the adoption, we have a public hearing, and then we hopefully get your approval at the second meeting in September. So thank you for that.
So again, these are abbreviated LCAP plans. So if you have comments, questions, concerns, you may submit them prior to that meeting or during the public comment for that meeting. And our conference agenda, Dr. Rice, you have a parcel tax update.
Yes, thank you, Board President Rodriguez. I appreciate the opportunity. Before I go into the parcel tax proper, I did want to just mention that to give it some context, one of the items that I think is important for the public to know is that this time last year, we actually were talking about floating 2 measures on the ballot. One would be a general obligation bond, which would have helped us materially and substantially upgrade the facilities throughout the district. And yet with the COVID-19 and the economic hardships that people are facing this year, sometime earlier this year, the board, I think, made the right call to table that for another 2 years. As painful as that was for us to put off those improvements, it was definitely not the right time to bring another tax onto the community members. So I just wanted to share with that. I appreciate that. Also, so moving into the parcel tax, the board did decide to support putting a parcel tax on the ballot, and it did qualify for the ballot as Measure H. The Measure H committee is currently in the formation stage, and right now we're looking at a slate of officers running the committee as Sabrina Rodriguez as the chair, Velma Lomax as the co-chair, and Anna Campbell as the treasurer. The efforts are in the very early stages and are all organizational in nature. Those efforts include filing the necessary paper to have official status as a committee, getting a tax ID number, setting up a bank account, and just collecting information that they need to run their campaign. So that's kind of where we are on the efforts. And then for the public who haven't been following this issue as closely as others, it's important to remember that the parcel tax would assess the same amount as in the past. It's not increasing the tax that you're currently paying. It would only serve as an extension. In the past, the money has been used to keep class size down and to support arts, music, and technology, and has been overseen by a parcel tax oversight committee. And all of those parameters would continue if this measure were approved. And the last thing I wanted to add this evening is the board has made it clear to staff that they would like to have more frequent reports and updates on how the measure is benefiting our students, both in terms of how the money is spent and what programs are benefiting from that spending. So I would envision if it were passed, the board would get at least 2 or 3 more reports per year. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sabrina or Velma if you guys want to add anything to that. That's a brief overview.
The only information I would add is that I think in the coming weeks, we'll be providing, again, some summary information about how prior year parcel taxes have been spent in the community, because I think it's important for the community to understand how those funds have been used in the past and to be able to ask questions if they have questions about that use. Obviously, our goal is to be as transparent as possible in this, and for people to understand exactly how these local dollars that are different from the money that we receive from the state or from the federal government, how these local dollars make a difference for our community, and then be able to make a determination for themselves about whether or not they would support continuing that. So thank you, Dr. Rice.
I just want to say that, remind people that bond measures have to be spent on facilities, bricks and mortar, basically buildings, grounds, whatever. Parcel tax we actually use in the classrooms that benefit children directly. If we were to have done it the other way around and decided to go out for a bond, that could not ever be used directly in the classroom for kids. So, and again, like President Rodriguez said, this does not increase the tax, it just continues the tax so we can continue to make a difference for our kids, especially in these uncertain times. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Velma. Okay, up next, the item I'm sure everyone is logging in to pay attention to, and that is the reopening of schools update. Dr. Rice.
Okay. Appreciate the opportunity.
I apologize. It says Dr. Cortez, but I just handed that to you. So
that's okay. I agree with you. I think there's a lot of interest in this item. I've given my thanks to the staff and to the teachers and the support staff for all of the work they've done. I want to reiterate that, and we're going to turn it over to Dr. Cortez, who has just a few slides, and then we're going to try to reserve the time for Q&A for the board.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to present a brief update on the opening of schools. I think Dr. Rice summed it up very nicely. We are all very, very thankful for the hard work of our teachers, for our staff, and for the grace of our parents. As we open schools, it was heartwarming to see so many smiles and to have children back in our lives. And we're very thankful to our community for that. We want to start by talking a little bit about orientation. Orientation has been a grade 0 through 12th grade effort, and we are in our second week of that system, and we start academic content direct instruction next Monday. So Dr. Rickard, if you wouldn't mind a brief summary on orientation thus far and what we're finalizing. Thank you.
Of course. So we have entered our second week, as Dr. Cortez said, of our distribution of devices and materials. So the first week, the elementary schools started meeting with their students, the kindergarten students, to do one-on-one orientations, to get to know their teachers. And if you looked on Facebook, you saw some lovely pictures of groupings of teachers with their students, individual students and families, everyone looking as happy as they possibly could. We handed a backpack of supplies to each student, K through 5, last week, and they seemed very excited. We had a great time putting those together, and many thanks to our transportation staff, our noon duty staff, and many, many other staff members, as well as volunteers from Mission Church for helping us with that. So the elementary distribution happened last week, as well as device distribution for many of the secondary schools. And so students lined up and received their Chromebooks and any other accoutrement that goes with the devices. So that happened last week for secondary. And then this week, our high schools are doing their distribution of backpacks and textbooks. And we waited until the second week for high schools, especially because master schedules needed to be set with students wanting to change classes, et cetera, which is typical of what happens in a high school. So we waited until the second week, and that is happening right now. And as Dr. Rice mentioned, he's been at several of the sites and has seen personally the students coming up and getting their items, including the fabulous backpacks that were again put together by our amazing staff and volunteers. And things are going really well. In the meantime, our teachers have been working to get to know their their students at the secondary level through Zoom. And so students have been logging in and getting to know their teachers. And we're just confident that as we move forward and complete this part of it, next week will be great as we go into the real stuff, the real learning. And we're excited to see all of our students. So thank you, Dr. Cortez.
Yes, thank you. I'll add a thank you to our call center folks who have been fielding many questions from families and from students with regard to technology and other learning pieces that we need to be able to move forward in distance learning. And also thank you to our warehouse for all the back and forth and delivery, working with purchasing on the receipt of supplies and getting that out to our sites. Speaking of orientation, wanted to show you a bit of what our orientation module looks like in elementary. There is a Canvas course to introduce families and students to Canvas and to Seesaw and to see how it is built and what structures to look for. And so this time last week and this week is to get everybody comfortable with the software so that when we're ready to fully launch academic content next week, folks will be prepared. And we didn't have the benefit of this as we launched into emergency teaching. So we've learned to go slow, to go fast, to be able to support not only our families, but our teaching staff as well. And I'll turn this over to our Chief Innovation Officer, Ms. Chandler, to talk about our secondary Canvas course.
Hello, good evening, thank you. Yes, so we built, with the great help of Jesse Taylor, he was invaluable in this process, we built a middle school and high school orientation course in Canvas. And the goal of that course was to get students familiar with all the tools before they actually have real class assignments, and to be able to understand how to communicate with each other, how to communicate with their teachers. And we also added the digital citizenship in there as well. So it turned out really beautiful, like not to toot my own horn because Jesse Taylor had a lot of work that he did with this, but it's a really well done course and it gives them a very broad overview of Canvas and all the great things they can do. And then at the same time, you're able to do their digital citizenship requirements too.
We're excited that this is a resource available to our call center so that they can also be of help to our students and families who need some extra support when it comes to Canvas. So thank you for that.
Yes.
In addition to the work at campus, there has been a tremendous effort to get devices out to our students. Our technology team has worked overtime through the weekend. We've relied on our bus drivers to help us do deliveries. Our principals have worked tirelessly to make sure that we have accurate counts. And so we're very excited to have devices to our students. We do know that we need a little bit of patience and grace from our families as we are shifting inventory right now from site to site in a temporary basis. So Ms. Campbell, if you wouldn't mind, I'm kind of explaining the status of where we are with devices and what we think our next steps might be.
Absolutely. As Dr. Cortez said, we have been shifting the inventory that we did have for students as needed, but we do have 3,000 brand new iPads for our smaller grades coming shortly, hopefully this week. We are waiting for the shipment. We also have over 1,000 laptops for our staff, counselors, speech therapists, para, educators, and all of the staff that would need to do that work. We also have 4,000 Chromebooks on the way. Hopefully we can distribute those slowly, but those are coming in chunks because we're being kind of subjected to the nature of every school district in the country wanting devices. And then we also have quite a bit of additional technology supports for our special education students who needed maybe monitors or larger iPads or whatever their needs were. We've gone ahead and purchased that.
We want to thank our staff for being patient with us as we're getting their devices to them. With the tech department, again, is working around the clock. Little known fact that Ms. Campbell spent the past weekend programming iPads herself, along with her spouse who might have gotten voluntold to help her. So it's certainly a team effort with everybody chipping in to make sure that we have devices for our students, and so excited to get the brand new devices to our students once they arrive. Is there anything else, Ms. Campbell, that I've missed here?
No, that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll turn our attention to attendance. Dr. Rice explained a bit that the state has put together some new practices when it comes to tracking not only attendance, but also engagement. And I'll turn this over to Cynthia Frutos and Cheryl Burns.
Good evening, everyone. Just wanted you to be aware exactly what Dr. Rice articulated. With the change to distance learning, the shift also came to taking attendance in the procedures. So as Dr. Cortez just mentioned, we're tracking live participation. So that would be a Zoom. Looks like we just went over to the next slide, Dr. Cortez. So we are tracking on Zoom for live attendance. And then our teachers are also asked to go back and track engagement. And so that engagement piece is if a student participated in the Zoom, then they're posted as engagement. So we did have a training for all of our teachers on Friday, but as we know, things change. And as things change, our district has looked and analyzed and then received feedback from our staff to then find out what is best for our teachers in Ventura Unified School District. And so today we had an update in which we were talking about professional development for not only our teachers that we provided today, but also for our attendance clerks that will be trained later on this week. But again, just wanted to reiterate the fact that this year with distance learning, while we're on distance learning, we will be tracking attendance through distance learning present, or distance learning absence, and then as well as engagement pieces. Dr. Cortez?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Frutos. And so thank you to our teachers, again, to our principals and to technology and student support services. So for working through these processes. They are new, they're developing, they're changing. Yesterday's queue looks different than today's queue. Technology has been really helpful here. And again, we think our partnership with our bargaining units as well as we work through these steps. So next steps in general, as we look at the opening of school, are continue to have ongoing support and outreach for students and families. We will be doing a webinar on attendance for our families once we have our procedures settling a little bit, and once we get rolling with our new attendance taking procedures. We will have notification systems. So if you have a student that you're expecting to be in a Zoom and then they aren't, you will get a notification so you can help adjust your students' decision making. I may have experienced that before myself, and so I know those calls will come in handy. And then, of course, lots of training and professional development for teachers. They have so much to learn right now, and we're giving them time to adjust, but we have an incredible team of teachers on a special assignment, ready and prepared to train not only our teachers, but also our paraprofessionals, our speech and language therapists, our psychologists, and all of our support staff. So we're very thankful to the Ed Services team, the partnership with Business Services and Human Resources as well, to get us through these first couple of weeks of school. So thank you.
Great. Board members, do you have any questions?
Yes, I've got a couple. My first question is obviously my standard question about numbers of students that we have not had contact with yet. Do we know? Are we tracking that? Do we know how many kids they are? And then my second question has to do with connectivity issues. Are we holding kids accountable if they're not getting online because either it was down on our end or something happened on their end, but they're trying to get in? How are we dealing with all that?
Ms. Frutos, I know that you've been running the attendance numbers, and I know we just have some preliminary information there. If you want to address that part first.
Yes, and so what we are doing, Dr. Dannenberg, is that we are actually tracking all of the students that have not checked in, that have not logged in, they're not enrolled in schools, and our principals have been doing a phenomenal job in making sure that they're connecting with us and then making sure that we connect with those families. And so right now, I don't have the actual numbers for you, but the numbers were quite low. And so we were running at about a 96, 97% of students, all students enrolled, and that was for the first 2 days. Again, that number continues to decline because as we're reaching out to families and students and going out there and actually doing wellness checks to make sure that these families are understanding that there is a process. If there's an issue with connectivity, we're connecting them with all of the right departments. If there's an issue with just maybe miscommunication or not knowing where to enroll their students, we're also assisting with that. But our departments have been extremely busy collaborating with the school sites as well as other departments to ensure that every family has access to enrolling their child. And there are no barriers, removing those barriers to getting them not only enrolled in school, but then being able to be ready for school.
And right now, because we have student orientations, for example, scheduled on days when there is live teaching, Dr. Dannenberg, we're still setting those attendance calls to alert. That probably won't happen until next week because we don't want parents to feel like those children are being penalized. They're not. When we have students who are missing because of connectivity or because they have to attend an orientation, we have 10 days to go back and clear those absences. The state granted grace when it comes to our instructional minutes and our attendance, and it officially begins on September 1st. So I just wanted to make the board aware that's why we're able to do these orientation structures. And so we'll get those procedures a little bit more clarified to our families so that they know that they aren't being penalized when those things happen, and that they do have time in their asynchronous opportunities to clear any absence that might have occurred due to technology. I think you also asked about finding students with barriers, and the state does require us to track engagement and participation in a way that if a child misses 3 or more days, we have a multi-tiered systems of support outreach plan in order to re-engage those students, and that's something we're working on collaboratively. It's not completely ready yet, but we've had a subcommittee of the Distance Learning Committee working on those procedures, and we will soon fold in our counselors, our admin on the site, and also our attendance clerks to help us with that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Certainly.
And I know that we talked about the devices. Do we have any estimation of time that we will have this device? I know early on when we had approved this, we were really confident we were going to get these on time. Do we have I'm really concerned. I know a lot of the students have received their devices. I guess it's more of a larger concern for our teachers that some of them are working on devices that are not able to hold the capacity of some of the Zoom calls and the amount of class that they're putting into. So just any type of estimation of time that those devices will be in?
I'll go ahead and jump in. For the staff, we had 2 large shipments of laptops. One's already came and been distributed out, and we're working through the second. Our tech department has to update and prepare those for each teacher. We're also offering each teacher to bring in their old laptop and transfer all their data. So they've been booking appointments. So that does take a little bit of time. And then for the Chromebooks, while we placed our order early, we're kind of at the mercy of the entire world wanting devices. And our order is actually being held at the manufacturer level. So the manufacturer is so desperate to try to give everyone something. We're only getting pieces of what we asked for so that other districts are also getting pieces. So while that's unfortunate, we did have a reserve, a kind of back stock that we've been providing to our students right now. And so that'll tide us over, but the intention is to meet the 1-to-1, particularly when we go to hybrid in the spring. So the iPads will come first, and then the laptops we're trying to get out to the staff right now, and then hopefully the Chromebooks.
And I'll just add that we definitely want families who need devices to continue to reach out to their schools. Their school may not have a device for them today, but we are shifting inventory from one site to the next to be able to meet need. So there have been some rumors that we're out of devices. That is not accurate. It just might be that a certain site is waiting for us to grab some devices from a different site and move them. It was difficult to anticipate need at every site, although we purchase 1-to-1 to enrollment. Again, we're still using the prior inventory to meet need at this point.
Great. And with that being said, I know with some of the kids being on the waiting list, obviously reach out to your school site and hopefully we can get everybody with their device. But are we requiring that the kids be on screen present where their teacher can see them? Or are they allowed to be on screen and not basically not have their video on? And would that represent them being marked absent or not?
Ms. Frutas, did you want to address that?
Yes. So they're actually not required to have their camera on. If they check in, then we count them as present. If they choose to have that camera off, we can continue to mark them present. And those are per state guidelines.
Okay, great. I just I think the public needed some clarification in that. So thank you so much for that. And that's all I have.
I just have one question and thought, and we received some emails from staff that the attendance is overwhelming for everyone and the requirements are overwhelming. And I know that we're giving our staff the support they need, but when we talked earlier about the placing people that don't necessarily have a daily job and we're going to put them in clerical positions, I'm hoping that we can use some of those hours to give our staff some extra support because this is overwhelming and they're learning Zoom, they're learning Canvas, they're learning Seesaw, everything. And then to add all this attendance requirement on top of it. I know we're all aware, but let's use all of our extra time that we have to make sure that we support our staff and everybody, parents, staff, all of us are going to have to be patient because this is new and we'll get through this, but it's not going to be easy. So just thank you all for everything. I appreciate everything you do.
Yes, I will add that we worked through some of that process. It was originally thought that we'd have to have every secondary teacher, for example, track engagement for every single class. And we've been able to have that to where it's 1 class per day. And that's an adjustment we were able to make fairly quickly, thanks to some partnership with our bargaining members and, of course, human resources. Separate from that, we also know that we have a secret weapon when it comes to Canvas, and that is Ms. Chandler. And she's been working with our front office staff to see what sort of reports we could run to be able to mitigate some of the time that staff is is doing to their attendance report. So Ms. Chandler, did you want to share a little bit about that?
Yes, please. So I have been working with one particular attendance person who we're trying to develop the role in Canvas for that. So that's a bit of a process, right? But there are reports that run in Canvas where we can see how often the student logged in, how much time they spent when they logged in, how many assignments they submitted when they logged in. And these, as you can imagine, are gigantic reports. And there's a whole plethora of them. So we're trying to figure out which reports are going to meet the needs of the state requirements and which people we can develop within Canvas to run those reports to hopefully alleviate some of the process on teachers, because obviously it's a lot, right? And so because in a typical distance learning environment, you would not be taking attendance in this way. It's usually progress towards completion of the course, not day to day to day to day. So it's trying to take a Canvas and utilize it in a very different way than we ever have before. So patience is required. We're figuring out how those things function together, but it's happening. And the reports are there and the rules are made. I'm testing them out before we push them out to the entire community and find out there's an issue. So that's what's happening in the background.
So that is a benefit of having Canvas for our learning management system, is we might not even need to use the Q module for this engagement purpose. So fingers crossed that we'll work through that system. We'll continue to have teachers certify their attendance and their engagement as is required, but we do think that with a little bit more time, we'll be able to mitigate even more the time impact. So thank you.
Jackie?
Can you go over a little bit of what the change is going to be in attendance taking at the September 1st mark versus now?
Yes, it's a little different because we don't have academic asynchronous content, but Ms. Frutos, if you want to explain a little bit about distance learning present, distance learning absent.
So teachers will be taking attendance. So they have a Zoom session. Their students attend Zoom. They would take attendance based on that. So it would be distance learning present or distance learning absent. Then for their periods 2 and 3, they will be then taking attendance for engagement piece. And then teachers will then be able to determine, was the student engaged? Yes, academically via Zoom, or the student was not engaged, did not attend the Zoom. Teachers will then have up to 10 days to go back and then add that attendance piece in, because some of our families are going to be working over the weekend and some of our students are going to be working over the weekend. So that gives our teachers an opportunity to go back for 10 days and add that attendance. So a student is not penalized if for some reason they were unable to get their work done during that week. So teachers will have those opportunities to go back. As Rebecca just mentioned, with Canvas reports, we'll be able to run those reports so that those engagement pieces can be captured there, and our teachers won't have to be inundated with, for example, a high school teacher with 180 submissions a day for engagement. So this will minimize that to only their second and third period. And then additionally, they will only have to mark one engagement piece, not all of the multiple modes of engagement. So that was another piece that we were able to bring down from all of the extra pieces and extra steps that they had to submit. So with that, if that Canvas report that Rebecca's creating, if we're able to run that, then the teacher certifies that everything is correct in Canvas, signs off on that, and then that's what we submit, so that when we're audited, that is a piece that shows the engagement. But as for distance learning present, distance learning absence, that is how we will be taking the daily attendance when a teacher Zooms with their student.
So the Zoom meetings sometimes are recorded and can be viewed later by a student. Does it count if they saw it later, or only if they see it during the time engaged during class, that hour?
I can speak to that. So a recorded lesson is one way for a student to access some of the content, but a recorded lesson doesn't meet the live teaching requirement, and it doesn't allow a student to engage with the work. And so that is one way for the teacher to provide some of the instruction, but then the student would have to do something in response to that in order to get the distance learning absent cleared to a distance learning present.
Okay, so we're still, a lot of families are still struggling with the bandwidth. So my sister-in-law, for example, she has an elementary school age, a middle school age, and a high school age. And the high school and middle school age are on at the same time. And actually the little one is just in the morning at the same time as the older two. So there's a lot of competition going on in that single household for bandwidth. And sometimes they just get popped off. So in a case like that, do they just email their teacher and does it count that they were there, or how does that work for the families that are dealing with the same issue?
So if the student's present for any part of the live teaching, the video conferencing, that counts as a distance learning present. But if they're not able to, for example, because of the bandwidth issues, then that absence can be cleared through doing work in Canvas or Seesaw in an asynchronous manner. And there is grace with regard to how many days to do that.
Would that be additional work or similar work to what they're already being assigned?
No, it should be similar work. The work that is assigned to somebody in an asynchronous environment should be similar to what is occurring during the live teaching.
And then for our teachers, I haven't run a Canvas class, but don't they get notification of who is present and who isn't? I mean, shouldn't it be something really easy for them to do? Or is this, I mean, I can't imagine that they have to go through and mark each student that's popping in and out during a class.
I can speak to that. In Canvas, it's recorded whenever the student logs in and
Right.
every piece of work that they're submitting. So for the teacher, there's a feature called the new analytics feature where they can look at their class as a whole. They can see all the students that have been in there within the last week. They can look at it as a graph. They can look at a particular day at a time. They can look through their roster of kids, and it says right next to it, the last time they logged in was this date, and this is how much time they've spent. So it's very easy and super apparent for teachers to see who's in and out of Canvas. It's not hidden at all.
All right. And can you speak a little bit to the engagement component and how does that work?
I think when we're saying engagement, like we're thinking of engagement as, and like you and I are engaged right now. When we're talking about engagement in a distance learning setting, we're talking about the work they've submitted. That's considered engagement, right? So whenever they're in there and they're actually doing work or reading the pages, which you can tell how long a student has spent on a particular page, that's engagement in the distance learning world. Does that make sense?
Yes. Is there a requirement as to amount of time that they have to spend in engagement?
The engagement is a state tracking mechanism. It's not tied to a student's grade. It's not tied to citizenship. It's not tied to any of those pieces. It's a mechanism for districts to ensure that we are, to Dr. Dannenberg's question, finding the students who are unable to engage, remove the barriers, and get them a seat at the table when it comes to education. With regard to minutes, our instructional minutes are based on the live conferencing time and the time that's built into our courses to meet the state requirements.
Okay, great. And then next to, I don't know if this would be the time or if it would be the time in discussing the MOUs, but to discuss IEPs and how those might be different. How are those treated differently, or are they treated differently? How is it working with our kids with special needs and our foster youth and any of our children that are in the red zones of our LCAP?
With regard to orientation, our special education students have been participating in all aspects of orientation. The same thing when it comes to our device distribution and attendance. So maybe if you could help me understand in what aspects you're asking, so I can do a better job answering.
With regard to engagement and with regard to attendance. Some of these kids, you know, the online learning component is not their best form of learning. It's not their easiest form of learning. Are we doing what are we doing different with them that we are, or are we doing anything differently with them right now? Do we have one-to-ones? Do they have the opportunity to come in and see a teacher if they're struggling? Is there any difference right now in a child that has an IEP versus a child that does not?
Well, yes, all the services in their individual education plan would be the difference between a student who has an IEP and those who don't. With regard to engagement, we track engagement for every student. That's a requirement of the state. And the same thing with attendance. We'll be taking attendance in the same way. If the live teaching component is something that is not appropriate in the same length, for example, for special education students, we can be flexible there. And again, showing up, even if you are there very briefly, you get attendance credit during the live teaching. So does that answer your question?
Yes. One further question. For our paraeducators that are assigned to IEPs or to a specific student, are they allowed to be in their home at all, or is it all distanced also?
Are you asking if the para is allowed to be in the student's home, or if the paras are working from home?
If the paras are allowed to be in the student's home with the student.
Right now, all of our services for both general education students and special educations are fully distanced.
Okay. And do we contract with any outside entities for this kind of service, or is it only in-house?
I think that's something we'd have to defer on. I think we need a little bit more time to make sure I'm understanding your question with regard to contracts and special services. There's lots of different aspects of special education. We have students housed in different learning environments. Is that the question?
No, it actually comes from my daughter is working with autistic children in Oxnard Unified. And over the summer, she worked one-on-one in their home. But once school began, they were under a contract with the school rather than the contract with the parent. And they're not allowed to be in the home. They're only on Zoom meetings. So do we have contracts like that with outside entities? And are we restricting them to something that we're doing rather than what they were doing previous, is kind of my question.
If I may, my understanding, yes, we do have NPA. We do have contracts with NPAs through the SELPA, and they are being treated exactly, is my understanding, as our paraeducators, our own paraeducators. So I hope that answers your question. We can probably get more information from the special education department, but my understanding right now is that we do contract with outside NPAs for one-on-one work, but they are treated exactly as our paras.
With the same
our own paras.
With the
So,
same.
yes.
Okay, so the reason I'm asking that is because not in school. So when my daughter works with the same kids on the weekends, she's in their home working with them one-on-one, and she would prefer. So would her organization prefer that she could be there with the child while they're on Zoom, because in a Zoom meeting, all she's doing is taking notes. There's no corrections of behaviors. There's no help with the work that they're doing. It's just not as impactful, and it's not as meaningful an engagement. So I was wondering if we have to have those restrictions, or if there's a way that we can free up the outside companies to behave as they do when they're not under our jurisdiction.
What I can do is I can defer to special ed so we can get more information to answer that question. I just know in a general sense.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And actually, I have a couple of questions as well. So, and clearly you can tell that we're all struggling with the attendance issue, which is a concern we hear from staff. So it's not, I'm sure, surprising. But if a parent needs to clear a student's attendance, like an absence for a reason, right, that isn't just they couldn't get on to Zoom, because for that they could just do the work, right? But let's say they're sick or unable to log in and do any work. What's the process? Is it the same as it would have been? Do they call into the school and say, my kid's been sick, they had appendicitis and they aren't logging in, or is there a different process?
We are actually fine-tuning those processes this week. I know Ms. Frutos and Ms. Burns have talked about some of those pieces. Is Ms. Burns available, Ms. Frutos?
No, she's not on the Zoom.
Okay, what I can share, and tell me if I misspeak, Ms. Frutos, is that we're going to need to do some different outreach in the beginning because we haven't trained our parents. So we have a webinar that we'll do either late this week or early next week, and we'll have a time period when we'll capture information from families that we know will tell us they're essential workers, for example, and they won't be attending the live video conferencing. And that initial rush of folks coming in will be gathered not only via phone call, but also from a survey, which will then be verified via email. So thankfully we have ParentSquare, and at the same time, we're still learning ParentSquare. So we need to get our procedures and processes solid, and then make sure that we have our communication pieces ready so that our parents know when and where and how to contact us, whether that's for giving us information that will be ongoing, or whether that is for a certain day, a certain period of time. So I'm looking down at Marianne to make sure that I haven't said anything wrong, because this is a huge coordination between Student Support Services, Technologies, and our communications department to get this piece right. We don't want phone calls going to families. Let's say that their child is absent. If we have information from that family, that will be an ongoing situation. And right now, I don't believe we have the potential to suppress certain families in ParentSquare. So we're trying to work through those difficulties before we get too far in the system. Is that right, Ms. Quitos? Did I explain that right?
Yes, Dr. Cortez, you're absolutely correct. So again, just like every other platform out there, ParentSquare was built for schools that are in session and children who are in seats. And so there's a really easy way to submit your excuses when children are sick. Unfortunately, some things are going to have to change if some of our families will not be on distance learning. So we are going to do our best to try and make ParentSquare work for us in that way. But as Dr. Cortez says, it does take a little bit of time for us to adjust it all. ParentSquare is also dealing with this with other districts as well. So we're hoping a solution can come quickly. But a lot of this, again, is coming fast and furious, and things change day by day. And so on Friday, but we may think we need one thing, and on Monday, we need something completely different. So just trying to stay flexible in that and trying to make the systems work for us.
Great, thank you.
The good news is that we will have the capability to notify families who think that their child is in a video conference, that they're not. So that is something that we know that we can take care of. What we are still figuring out is how to not then call the families that have a reason, and we know of that reason, and have them to continue getting calls. So once we have that part figured out, we'll feel comfortable explaining the system to parents, because we don't want to inundate any family that's already having barriers to the live conferencing.
So I would respectfully request we have another attendance explanation at a future date when we can, because I mean, clearly we all have questions about this. It's confusing, and staff have been asking questions about it. So this is all new to all of us. In addition, I wanted to ask, do we have a sense of how many students have unenrolled from our schools as a result of the distance learning?
We do, Ms. Campbell and I were just talking about that earlier today. Ms. Campbell, did you want to talk a little bit about what we think might be our numbers?
Absolutely. So we do currently have about 250 students who were projected to be with Ventura Unified that are not currently enrolled with us. And that includes even the movement between our students who wanted to move to Homestead. We've accounted for that. So with our projections right now, I'll scroll down, is 248 students that we thought would be with us that we're seeing are not right now. So I don't know if that they're still enrolling, or whatever the issue may be, or maybe they're choosing to wait until we go back to hybrid to come back to us, whatever their issues are. But we do have Homestead with steady enrollment and our other programs as well.
Great, thank you. I was wondering if Ms. Muñiz could give us a little 10-second, how did the first week of food distribution go?
Sure, I'd be happy to. The first week, we served a little over 1,000 meals across the 10 sites. And yesterday, we served about 200 more. So I'm hoping that each week the word gets out a little bit more, and parents are a little bit more comfortable with the online learning. So they're able to come on Mondays between 11:30 and 1 and pick up meals for their students.
Great. Yeah, it was nice to see them yesterday at Ventura High School, handing out meals to families as they came by. So, and then I had a question about childcare, and partly prompted by the emails that we've received from the public. But Dr. Cortez, could you share, do we have childcare available at all of our sites, particularly elementary school?
I'll defer to Ms. Wolowitz, who's been working really hard with our private partners, and here she is.
Good evening. We have childcare available. It is not open at all sites because we are working off of the demand and the number of students that are requesting support in that manner. But we are collaborating with those partners to be sure that we have space available for them. And they're accepting students from any location. So if I go to one school, I can attend childcare at another school location.
Okay, and if a staff member needs access to that, is there a process for that, or are they just part of the general public?
They would contact the provider directly because the providers have specific information, and we're collaborating with the providers to provide opportunities to support their programs.
Okay. Great.
And for those staff members that completed the survey and indicated that they were a staff member, they got direct information from Ms. Wolowitz's office with regard to childcare, not just the information with regard to employees who are permitted in certain circumstances to bring their children, but also this partnership information along with our community parents as well. They can also call the call center. The call center has the list of providers that Ms. Wolowitz is referring to.
Great, thank you. And I know that traditionally we offer free or very low cost childcare options at some of our schools, and I assume that is still the case with these new programs. And if someone has questions about that, then a site administrator is the appropriate person to reach out to, or?
The providers themselves have different funding options, each of the different providers. So it's best, the information is best received from the specific providers themselves.
But so I guess what I'm saying is, how would they know who to contact? Is that information available on our website, that a list of all the providers that are in our district, and then which ones are low cost, no cost, market rate?
Yes, so we have a list of all of our childcare providers on our website under resources, just as we do with our other resources that are available. And they can contact those providers directly to find out more information. In order for us to put it on the website, it would be difficult because they also change whether or not they have capacity still, et cetera. So we give them the basic information, and then they can contact each provider to determine exactly if they fit their needs.
Okay, great, thank you. And my last question is, the CDC recently released a report showing that mental health is really suffering for our young people under the isolation and the closures. And I was just wondering what if you could share sort of what the timeline is for getting information out to families about resources that are available for students if they see that their child is struggling.
We actually have all of those resources available on the resources page as well. That's right off of our fall 2020 information page. And we do advertise those regularly to our families. And there is a very long list of mental health providers for students that might need them in a variety of different categories, as well as family members who may need them as well. So I can absolutely share that out again in our next communication we send to families.
Okay, I actually just randomly, I spent some time on the website looking for it. I did not look specifically under the COVID pages. I was just looking through the various departments and didn't find it. So we might want to reference it under the support services, which is where mental health services would normally be found.
Sure, we can do that. It's no longer on the COVID pages. It's on the fall 2020 opening under the resources section. And actually, I'll talk to Dr. Cortez and Student Support Services to see how we might elevate that more on our website as well.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I just think that, whatever we can do to support students and families who are obviously under a lot of pressure right now is really helpful.
I will add that we do have a beautiful Canvas course with regard to social emotional learning and mental health resources that Student Support Services and Special Education have built collectively, because we're still in the Canvas training mode that Ms. Chandler shared with you earlier. That has not been released yet. We're aiming for week 4 for that, and then that will be available to all of our secondary students. And in addition, parents can make an observer account. So that's also a wonderful opportunity for us to remind parents of these resources, not only through social media, but through site communication as well.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate all that information.
And I believe also the information is on the counselor page on the website too. And but I do with the board president Rodriguez, it is tough to navigate if you don't know how to get to it at some points.
Yeah, and I think one of the challenges with multiple platforms is we don't want to repeat the information in every potential platform. On the other hand, people need to know which platform to be using to look for it. So it just, we'll get there, but highlighting those things is important. So thank you for the update. Really appreciate all the information. We'll move on.
Sabrina, one last thing. When you do bring it back, if you could make sure that the parents are going to be very familiar with emailing the teacher. So they will be emailing the teacher their reasons for being absent now. And I just don't want that extra burden to fall on the teacher. It needs to be a very easy way that the parent can link in and find where they're supposed to go.
Yes, we agree. And we're modeling that process after Data Middle School, which has had an online absence clearing system in place for years now. We use their model to build what will go on every school's website eventually and be pushed out that way. We feel the same way. The teachers are not the people to record these absences, and we will do a webinar and we'll bring this back to the board for an update as well.
Great, thank you. Item 17B, consideration for adoption of the digital-only Mansana Learning World Language curriculum for grades 6 through 12. And this is an action item. You'll recall that we had a presentation by some of our world language teachers during our last meeting, and this is the course curriculum that they really loved and are excited about.
Move approval.
Oh, and I'll second it.
Thank you. Ms. Dawn?
Vote as follows. Trustee Dannenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Alvarez,
Yes.
Trustee Lomax,
Yes.
Trustee Moran.
I'll say yes, but then I have a question really quick. It says digital only. Is there also a hard copy component to this or no?
No, there isn't a text along with it. The world language teachers have created units where they have units based on literature. And so really they felt that this was more of a supplement for digital learning.
Okay, perfect. Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Rodriguez.
Yes. And I'll just say, Dr. Molinar, it's really nice to have you back. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be back. Thank you.
Motion carries 5-0.
Item 18, business services, Tyler Technology Software Service Agreement for the 2020 through 2023 school years.
Yes, good evening, President Rodriguez, members of the board, Dr. Rice, and Executive Cabinet. Thanks for having me. I'm excited. I've been working on this project for about a year. Pretty much since I got here, Betsy asked me to start working on this. And so I'm excited to finally bring this culmination of all the research we've done in the past year, looking for a routing software system. The system that we liked the best out of the 5 we looked at is a system called Traversa. And currently, right now in transportation, all the routing that we do is done by hand. When we get a new student that comes in, say in the special ed routing, we will get that student, the routers will look at plot that student on a map, and then they have to physically change the route sheet saying to turn left on this street, turn right on this street, and then you'll get to the house. So it's a very manual, tedious process, especially at the beginning of the year when we get in 300 students. So this new software, did I hear a question? No? Okay. This new software, of course, will help us to build and optimize our routes in an efficient way. And by doing that, it will reduce labor and also to help with fuel costs, reduce that. The new software also helps it has a fleet management program in there, which helps to track our maintenance that we do on the buses, as well as keeping in parts inventory. This system allows us to have a field trip management option in there. And so all of our field trips can be maintained and monitored easier than what we do now. We also have a great thing in there called, well, we have GPS now on the buses, but the GPS pings every 2 minutes. And that sounds like kind of a short time, I guess, but it's really a long time. And sometimes it has made a difference where we've needed to ping more often. And this new software allows it to ping every 1 second. So this really gives us an accurate place as to where the bus will be at all times. Something pretty cool about this system too is we will have a tablet placed on each of the buses. And this tablet will allow the driver to see GPS and know where to turn, like we do in our cars, and they'll be able to follow the route on the GPS. Currently, we have paper, and the driver's trying to look at this piece of paper while they're turning and, you know, turn left, turn right. So it's kind of cumbersome with the piece of paper. Another exciting thing is that as the child gets on the bus and gets off of the bus, they will use their card and scan on and off. And if they're trying to get on the wrong bus, the tablet will flash red and the driver will know, hey, this isn't your bus. You need to go to a different bus. And if the child tries to get off at the wrong stop, the tablet will flash red again and the driver will know that this isn't your stop, you shouldn't get off here. And so we'll always know, you know, if the child, first of all, rode the bus and where the child got off. And I think probably one of the most exciting things for me and for my staff is that Traverso has a option in there called Parent Portal. And the Parent Portal allows the parent to download an app on their telephone, and they can look at their student, not necessarily the bus, but they can tell when their student's supposed to be dropped off. And they can also set up a time for the computer to automatically give them a text and say the bus will be arriving within 3 minutes, within 5 minutes. And then the parent will know the bus is delayed or on time, and the parent can come out and meet the child. And so we're really excited about that option that it leaves for the parents, so that they don't have to stand outside and wait and wonder if the bus has even come yet. So that's a great option. So the first year cost for this program, which includes the software, the installation, the tablets, all of the training for our routers. They help us with the routing as our routers are learning how to do it. It includes all the RFID cards for the children. The first year's cost is about $107,000 for this program. And then after we get the initial $107,000 for the first year, each year after is about $22,000 to maintain it. So because of the increased complexity of transportation when the district moves to hybrid learning and the need to identify students on any given bus if there is a known positive case for COVID, if we have to do the contact tracing, this system could be funded using the COVID Act funding for the first year of the implementation. And it also helps, I know Dr. Rice talks a lot about getting our systems and stuff digitized and get away from the paper. And so obviously we will be all on the computer and cloud-based, and it'll be really helpful and beneficial to the district and to the parents. So that's a little bit about Traverso, so thank you.
Board members, do you have any questions?
Of course we have questions. First of all, this is a 3-year contract. How about the out years? Is there a possibility for extension at the approximate same $22,000 cost?
Absolutely. It's not the same cost. It does go up a little bit. I think year 3 was $23,000. So there's a slight increase each year. I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a slight increase each year as it goes on.
That's reasonable. And then what happens if a child forgets to bring their card?
So if a child forgets to bring the card, the driver can actually manually put their name in the iPad, and it'll tell them the same information.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna ask if there's any way Tailored Technology could push it back, since we're not using the buses right now. But when you said we can use CARE Act funding for this, it makes me really excited, because obviously we're in the digital age, and for you to know where every single one of your buses are at every moment is fantastic, and know where every one of our students is. So that's either if they're at an event, a field trip, a sports event, I think that's fantastic. Now, are those tablets removable from the bus?
They are removable, yes.
Great. So
there's a stand that is permanently placed in the bus, but the tablet can go in and out.
Great. That's my only questions. Fantastic. Thank you.
Great. Thanks.
I think it's an awesome system. I just have one question, and that is data on our students being in the cloud is always, I'm sure you've looked into the security of this. So do you have a way to just briefly explain to us how secure this is going to be for our kids and our parents?
Yeah, so Tyler Technologies is, I'm not going to say they're the biggest, but they're a huge company that's out there right now in the bus world. And they do have many measures in place so that none of the student data can get out. And we also are going to do an agreement, I forget the exact name of it, but an agreement so that Tyler Technology can't release any of the information, for the students. And everything is in a secured cloud-based.
Do you mind if I chime in for a second?
Yeah, go ahead, Genevieve.
It's the California Student Data Privacy Alliance that he's kind of referring to. And Tyler Technology should have no problem signing our agreement with the California Student Data Privacy Alliance. They already have a really comprehensive list of security measures that they have in place. And so it should be no problem to get them to sign on to that, which is what we use.
And then I just have one other question. I know this is an internal situation, but let's say that there's a custodial issue with parents. Who will be in charge of updating to make sure that the right parent is getting the notifications of where the child is, so that the child might not be picked up by the parent that just had their rights taken away or something?
So every night, the computer, the program updates with Q. So whenever the schools put updates in Q, then it comes into our system, and then we get a flag that says, there's been a change with this child, maybe a possible route change or something, and then we can reroute that child, and then it'll update automatically and immediately to the tablet. So any changes that come in through the school are updated.
Thank you.
Sure.
Those updates that you're talking about, would that apply to, so my nephew frequently takes the bus from his middle school, and I'm the first stop before his stop home. But when his mom works late, she'll say, just go to Aunt Jackie's. So he gets off at not the bus stop to his house, but the bus stop to mine. Is there a way to, or maybe two kids are going home together and they're study buddies for the day, and you have a child that hops on a bus that is not their normal because they're going to their friend's house. Do you have a way to track all that, or are you going to deny the kid to get on? How's that work?
So a couple things there. If they are eligible for busing, they're supposed to go to their own site. However, if they do get off at a different site, again, when they scan out, it'll turn red on the iPad, and we will know where the child's gotten off at that stop. We're not going to force them to be on the bus. However, they, like we do now, they do have a note that they bring, usually from the school or from their parents, saying that they do have permission, because we don't just like to let the kids go anywhere. But if they do get off, we will know where they did get off.
Okay. And everything's done in a text message now. Could they show you their phone to say, my mom said go here?
Probably.
Okay, good. Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
And Matt, you asked my question about the funding, so very happy about that. I likewise was glad to hear that it's the CARES Act that's doing this.
Yeah, that works great.
Yeah, so bravo. Yep.
So Ari, this looks really lovely. I guess my one question is, do the out year costs change if our ridership goes dramatically up or down?
No, it's mostly based on the number of tablets that are on the bus and the the annual costs are pretty much the network to maintain those tablets. So I guess if we lost one bus route, it would go down a little bit. If we did lose enrollment, or if we gained one, it might go up a little bit, but it's not based on students.
Okay.
There is, I guess, a little bit of cost to buy a new card or something if we got more students and stuff like that, but those are minimal.
Yeah, this seems like a great way of bringing our transportation tracking system up into the 21st century. So,
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Great. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say we're hoping, because it takes 4 to 6 months to get the whole thing running. So we're hoping that it can be up in January. And of course, we're hoping we start school again in January. So we're hoping it can be all up and running by the time we go back to school.
Fantastic. Great. So this item will come back at our next board meeting for a decision. Up next, Human Resources, 19A, Ventura Unified School District and Ventura Education Support Professional Association, COVID-19, coronavirus, and opening schools memorandum of understanding. And it's an action requested item. Dr. Davis.
Yes, President Rodriguez, board members, Superintendent Rice. Very quickly, I first wanted, and I know Andrea, Mrs. Crouch wants to also, is to thank both of our association presidents. First of all, Carol Peak from VESPA, and then Dan Nelson from VUEA. Echoing what Dr. Rice said earlier, they're really amazing partners in education. It's interesting. We do interest-based bargaining a little bit now, and our interests are the same. And so I think that speaks volumes. And when you have partners that are like that, it makes bargaining and negotiations a lot easier. This MOU really had 3 overarching interests, both sides. Health and safety was the prime one, number one. In a pandemic world, health and safety has to be number one. Number two, we wanted to make sure that our VESPA bargaining unit members were engaged in meaningful work. Thought that's really, really important to reconnect them with their work sites, those that have not been working, although there have been many, many VESPA employees that have been working all the way through the COVID-19 pandemic. And the other thing is to make sure that we keep as many of our people employed as we possibly can. We really value our employees, and we want to keep them aboard with us because we know this is a temporary thing. We're going to be out of this at some point. And we want everybody engaged and connected. So when that bell rings, we're ready to go. One thing that we've been doing with these interests is making sure that our principals, our site leaders, our supervisors, pretty much everybody in DLT is aware of the MOU, is able to send it out to their staff members, teachers, VESPA members, whomever, to make sure they're very familiar with the different pieces of information in the MOU. The 3 things we're going to focus on real quickly tonight in this MOU, it's a 4 or 5 page MOU. We're going to focus on 3 things. I already talked about health and safety. The second thing we're going to focus on is a section called days and hours. And the third is a section called transfers and assignments. And my tag team partner, Mrs. Crouch, is going to take on days and hours and transfers and assignments.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Davis. So yes, I just also wanted to echo the theme of tonight, Dr. Rice and the board and you, just the appreciation we have for our VESPA president, Carol Peak, and the VESPA leadership team. Carol, thank you so much for you and your team. The negotiations team has been outstanding. The para-educator subcommittee that we've been working with has been phenomenal. And just, of course, all of our classified employees, the collaboration, the flexibility, the willingness just to jump in wherever needed. And, a lot of us have had an opportunity to visit our sites in the last couple of weeks, and just the spirit out there is about really everybody just coming together, jumping in and doing whatever is needed to make the school year a good school year and to help our students and families get settled in. So just a big thank you to everybody and for the collaboration. So just quickly to focus in on the days and hours and some of the repurposing efforts. Both the union and the district we realize the need for flexibility as we work in this distance learning environment. And so there has been flexibility with our union, with our employees, with our sites, to be able to adjust the work hours or the start and end times of the schedules for our employees. So we're maintaining and ensuring that they still continue to work the total hours per week, but there is some flexibility to shift the start and end times to meet the needs in this current environment. And then as far as the repurposing goes, again, we want to make sure that our employees all remain engaged and connected to our students and to our school sites. And so we have worked really closely with, Carol and a subcommittee with our para-educators to define the role and expectations of the employees who are going to be reassigned to different areas, because of they might not be needed 100% with our students being off-site, and identifying what the duties they would be performing in these repurposed assignments. So some of the major areas that we're working on, or groups of employees, I should say, are transportation, our bus drivers, some of the front office staff in the transportation department, our noon duty employees, our campus supervisors, our PE equipment attendants, and food and nutrition. They continue to work every day getting those meals prepped and distributed. And once we get into kind of a routine in a few weeks, there may be a little bit of repurposing with that group as well. So again, it's just really been open communication, talking with one another, giving choices to our employees, and trying to match their strengths or their desires, their experiences to what the needs are district-wide.
And President Rodriguez, I just wanted to add in that what you guys will be voting on tonight is a true collaboration and true partnership. And I also wanted to give big kudos to both of the district bargaining teams, both the bargaining team that bargains with VESPA and the bargaining team that bargains with VUEA. They're a great group of employees, great group of administrators and managers and supervisors. And I want to give them a thumbs up also and a kudos.
Great, thank you. Board members, do you have any questions?
No.
Well, I'll just add my thanks, Carol, and to your entire bargaining team. We really appreciate the collaboration. Our support professionals are amazing, and it's important to keep them connected to our schools because so many of them are the glue that keep our kids connected. And so we really appreciate you helping us make sure that we can keep these people employed, because we don't want to lose them, especially now in this hard time, but really anytime, because we're a team and it's really great to have them on our school sites. So thank you. And this is an action item. So do I have a motion?
Move for approval.
I'll second it.
Okay, vote as follows. Trustee Dannenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Alvarez,
Yes.
Trustee Lomax,
Yes.
Trustee Moran,
Yes.
Trustee Rodriguez.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 5-0.
Great, thank you. And this brings us to our consent calendar, items 20 to 22. Weird, that's a different nomenclature. I just realized the numbers are different because normally it's like 14 items and now it's 2. So these items are generally considered to be routine in nature. Is there any item that any board member wishes to have pulled for a separate conversation? Nope. Then do I have a motion to accept these items as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, vote as follows. Trustee Dannenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Alvarez,
Yes.
Trustee Lomax,
Yes.
Trustee Moran,
Yes.
and Trustee Rodriguez.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 5-0.
Great, thank you. That brings us to board reports. Board, do you have any items, committee meetings that you'd like to share, Dr. Dannenberg?
No, but I was remiss when you asked about questions about the classified agreement to say thank you to our unions. We really appreciate what they're doing, and I know we're saying it, but we can't say it enough. And really want to thank you, both our union presidents, for their hard work during these trying times. So thank you.
Mr. Alvarez?
No, I will have board reports at the next meeting. As we have an upcoming meeting, I'll share in upcoming events.
Velma?
I just wanted to report that we're successful in obtaining DoD grants for several robotics teams at the middle school and high school levels throughout our district. And I'm going to be getting the information for Rebecca's, because we can use what we get to show matching funds and whatnot, and it's all in collaboration. She helps all along the way, and it's just a great thing. And those kids are anxious to get to be making robots. So hopefully our season will go. And other than that, I haven't really had any other meetings. Like Matt, we have a meeting coming up soon. So next meeting, we'll have something to report.
Jackie?
Same. My meetings are up and coming this week. Nothing to report in the last two. Nope. All's quiet on the home front.
Great. Well, the only thing I'll share is that I was able to participate along with Ms. Chandler yesterday in a phone call with the Westside Community Council, together with the Housing Authority. They are looking at a grant to support the West Side, and specifically looking at how to provide more Wi-Fi access to residents on the West Side. And so there's the opportunity to write a grant proposal in the neighborhood of $125,000 that would go specifically to that. And a secondary issue that they're looking at potentially supporting is community gardens and food security for residents. So more information, I'm sure, on that in the coming weeks. Coming events, Dr. Rice.
Yes, thank you. So I want to just announce for everybody's information that we do have our back to school nights staggered as much as we can, so that families that have children in different age spans or grade spans can attend both events. So our elementary weeks for back to school nights are September 1st through the 4th and September 14th through the 18th. Our middle school events are September 3rd, 9th, 10th, and 16th. Our high school nights are September 21st through 25th. We hope to see you all there. I know it's on Zoom, but still, we'd love to have you participate. Also, I want to share that we have an opportunity to contribute to the continuation of our LCAP through the Learning Continuation Plan, which will be the same group as the LCAP committee. Meeting on September 2nd at 8:30 in the morning, and then another meeting repeat at 5 p.m. And a couple more things. We have a PAC meeting, our Parent Advisory Committee, on September 1st at 9 a.m. coming up. Looking forward to that. That'll be our first one of the year. And then we have tentatively scheduled, and hopefully you have it all on your calendars, board members, a special board meeting on the September 9th at 9 a.m. for the purpose of going through interviews for the new member of the Personnel Commission that would be your appointee.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. Sometimes that just takes longer than it should, and I apologize. Thank you, Dr. Rice. Any other upcoming events, board, that you'd like to share?
Just that I'll be with Velma at the Mental Health Committee on the 1st. We'll be meeting from 1 to 3 on Zoom. And I was wondering if it would be the right time to ask that if CAUSE would like to maybe participate, well, a member from CAUSE would like to participate in the Mental Health Committee and possibly sit in on that. So if I wanted to make sure board policy allowed us to bring an outside entity to want to be a part of that Mental Health Committee.
I think personally it would be wonderful to have student representation on there, but I don't know if we have a policy for how we get student representation, whether, that's one of the cause students or any other student who has a desire to participate.
I'll share that particular committee has some protocols that we need to look into, and we'll definitely follow up and get that information to you.
Great, thank you so much. And then I'll be attending a conference on the 8th, 9th, and 10th virtually for the a mental health conference that originally was going to be in Anaheim. So excited to bring back information from the first day on the 8th, and then I'll share the information after that in the next board meeting.
Great, thank you. Board and superintendent comments. Dr. Rice?
Future board items?
Oh, I'm sorry, skipped right up that. Future board items in an interest of being quick. So as you can already see, board members, we've already included the 7-Eleven committee report. They'll be finalizing the report to bring to us, and a CTE update on the farm and other pathways from Ms. Chandler. Are there any other items?
No. I did have a question though, backwards a little bit about the LCAP and a Zoom link. How are we inviting parents and students to that? How are you getting that out?
We'll be sending those invitations out the way we have done traditionally, which is we'll be emailing directly to anybody who's participated in the committee in the past. And then we will also put that out via social media with a reservation so that we don't go above our Zoom limits.
Okay, thank you.
And that would be fabulous if we really went up above those Zoom limits. Let me just say that right now, we would adjust and we would solve it. But we're prepared. We're trying to have it about 1,000 or so in the morning and 1,000 in the evening. Yes, we will adjust, right, Marianne? If we get people just pounding the door, we'll go webinar if needed.
We will make it work.
We will.
Since we have this platform and it's always been such a challenge to get kids involved, can we send this link to ASB presidents at the high schools? The invitation and the link?
We can send it to any and all students. It's not a closed committee. We've had students participate in the past. So Mr. Ahmad has mentioned cause before, and those students from cause came before. So we can happily distribute it. I wouldn't want to limit it necessarily to one group above the other. If that's okay with everybody, I think the more voice we can have from students, the better.
Absolutely. I was just worried about your limit.
Again, if we have 1,000 students crashing the LCAP meeting, we will find a way to make it work. That will solve it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I had one future board item. One of the comments that we've received is on our process for providing public comment. And so I was hoping that maybe we could have a conversation at a future board meeting about how to provide a better platform. I know I've looked at Santa Barbara Unified's process, and they basically have kind of a panel format like we did for Celebrate, and then they elevate people to a panel member if they have a public comment. So maybe if there's a way for us to look at that and make sure that we're providing ample opportunity for the public to provide us their perspective, especially given how important some of the topics we're talking about are.
Can I also request an update on how our kids with IEPs especially are doing in this distance learning model, and if there's anything that we need to adjust to make that different for them coming soon, because it's that demographic getting further behind is just weighing on me.
Can I I'd like to go back to the point of order that we had talked about in terms of our protocol in our governance handbook. So the suggestion was made to add an item to the next agenda on the process for public comments, and I didn't really see a lot of reaction from the board members. So I'm going to kind of pick you out from here. Is there consensus on that? We agreed if we had consensus, we'd put it on. Okay. So yeah. I'm seeing, okay. All right. So that's on now. The next one. Thank you. Special ed. Just a special ed update on how special ed students are
engaging in the distance learning model, and if anything needs to be adjusted or if there are ways to adjust it.
Okay. Board?
Yeah, I think it'd be great to hear.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you.
As part of that, can we also get an update on the centers that we had heard? I know there's still talk of trying to get assessment centers up and running. Right?
Yes, we can do that. That's absolutely
great.
I just had also 2 future board items too. One was, well, 3 of them, but one was the public comment. So I appreciate that, Board President. The other one was looking into our voter registration policy and see what we can do in this distance learning platform to make it an effective way to get our students to vote, or get out to vote, or however. I know we were going to use some platforms and some different agencies along with some instruction, but I know it's a little bit harder in the atmosphere we're in. And then also for us to look into kind of a date time where we can look at our SRO stakeholders, so the community in general, as we talked in our previous board meetings, about getting the community out there and involvement in us and looking at opportunities to have that discussion.
Okay, can I go back to the assessment, the voter registration consensus on the board?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then the SRO program, I think it was inferred, my interpretation was that it was inferred that we were going to go back and look at a process for engaging our stakeholders. And then once we've had a chance to do that, bring it back to you with the recommendations of a committee that we put together to work on that. That's kind of what I took away in my notes from last meeting. Would that work, Mr. Alvarez? Or
yeah, I'm not looking for a vote at the next meeting or anything. I just wanted to make sure that we started pushing forward and getting outreach to the community to start getting the ball rolling on just the talks in general.
Yeah, maybe I can touch on that in my superintendent's report, and I can tell you now, as by way, maybe even as part of my comments, that I've already started that work, and I've reached out to Alex from Cause and Chief Schindler, and I've made several calls to try to bring stakeholders together. So thank you for that reminder.
Great, thank you. Board and superintendent comments.
I know we're trying to get out of here, but I'm so sorry. I just had 3 small little things. Well, not small, but 3 things from my platform. First off, I was wondering if there's any ability to honor our seniors for this current year, if we look at possibly doing a little bit of what we did last year for the seniors at the end of the year, getting in place cards on the front lawn saying that, class of 2020 to 21, start the celebration now for these kids, because again, it's another group that's being left off in the experience of them having an overall exciting back to school, how it used to be senior year. So it's just more of a comment again, but if something we can do to get that ball rolling, see if there's some funding somewhere, I think that it would really do a great job for our seniors out there just to get the start. The other one is just this, our sites, our websites, I think are starting to come along, but I think a lot of our PTAs and PTOs and a lot of the school sites are using social media. But I think if you go back to some of our websites, they're very outdated. There's not a lot of information on there. I want to do a kudos to Ventura High, because I've been on that website obsessively, and they're very up to date, but some of our sites aren't. And I just want to make sure that it's something we look at during this time. I know we're working really hard and doing so many different things, but it's just really important that we are consistent, not only on social media, but on our websites that are directly connected to the district. And the last thing, I would be remiss to not state that we need to really make sure that we're reaching out to our students. This is, again, a social injustice that's going on in the world right now, unfortunately, and just awful that Jacob Blake was shot 7 times, and luckily he's alive, and hopefully he can survive from this. And whatever happened in Wisconsin is something that is just happening throughout our country right now, and it's something we really need to look at and make sure that our students they're really taking this hard, and that we are really striving in Ventura Unified School District to make the right changes for our students and put the right programs in place. But the ones that we are slipping through our fingers and slipping through our cracks. This is the kind of reoccurring situation in our society that we got to make sure that we're really mentally and social emotionally looking out for our students. And I'd be remiss if I didn't make that statement tonight. Thank you.
Jackie? Well, I will just say, you know, we're back at school. And even though it did not feel like it was a summer, I'm so proud of our staff for the hard work that they've done to get us across the finish line, whether that is in getting our schools clean and ready or in creating a whole set of online curriculum or providing answers to families who have questions. I mean, there's just been so much going on. I know that many are completely exhausted and we're just starting the year, but just wanted to say thank you, because I feel like a big part of what we do as a school district is show up for kids and just continue to be there, continue to be a resource for their families, and continue to let them lean on us if they need to during these kind of challenging times. So thank you for our staff for just remaining incredibly dedicated. We're so lucky to have such great people who don't lose sight of the goal and continue to work for all of our community's children. And really just, we wish you all the best in this year ahead. It's going to be challenging, but we're fortunate to have such an amazing team. And please know that we really do truly appreciate your efforts and support you, and hope you're taking time to recharge and get a little break in when you can, so that we can all make it all the way through to June in good spirits. Dr. Rice, any comments?
Just very briefly, I want to give a special shout out to an amazing group of employees that sometimes doesn't get the recognition they deserve. And that's our principals. They are under the gun from all sides, from, you know, pressure from the board and the staff and the state and the public health department and parents and kids. And those principals are really doing an amazing job trying to respond to all those competing demands. I had an amazing time visiting with them this week. They were extremely gracious with their time. They took me around, introduced me to people, showed me around their facilities. They're just a tremendous group of leaders, and I can't say enough positive things to them. So principals, kudos to you. You guys are just doing a great job. Keep it up.
Great, thank you. Although I would take issue with being under the gun from board members.
I didn't say board members. I said the board.
The board, yes.
We have guys.
There is no need for us to return to closed session. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Thank you.
Okay, vote as follows. Trustee Dannenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Almaraz,
Yes.
Trustee Lomax,
Yes.
Trustee Moran,
Yes.
and Trustee Rodriguez.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
This is our shortest board meeting in quite some time. So hopefully everyone gets a chance to get some rest, and we have a busy day again tomorrow. So thank you all for joining us and for caring about our public schools. We really do appreciate your attention, and big shout out to TDC Studios for facilitating the conversation with our community. So
thank you.
Have a wonderful evening.